What is up guys, and welcome back to another video. My name is Nouman and today I'm going to analyze the game between Manchester City and Arsenal. Man City on paper were lined up in a 4-3-3 formation, but they had a very flexible shape as they shifted to 3-2-4-1 with possession and 4-2-3-1 without possession. Fernandinho dropped at the centre-back position without the ball and De Bruyne replaced him in the midfield, making the shape 4-2-3-1. While Arsenal on the other hand were lined up in a 3-4-3 formation on paper, but on the pitch they kept a solid 4-4-2 formation throughout the game. So first of all, we are going to look at the systems of the two teams and then we will jump into more details. Man City with possession kept a back 3 shape. Back 3 with 2 men in the midfield and a front line of 5 players, and the formation was 3-5 or more like 3-4-1. And without possession, Fernandinho dropped at the centre-back position and made it back 4, while De Bruyne replaced him in the midfield. While Arsenal on the other hand kept a solid 4-4-2 shape throughout the game. Man City could not have asked for a better start as they were 1-0 up inside the first 50 seconds. Arsenal made a number of mistakes during these early seconds which resulted in a City goal. Man City lost possession and they quickly tried to counter-press Arsenal in their own box. Iwobi had the chance to clear the ball, but he instead decided to dribble past the ball. The entire Arsenal defense had pushed up, while Mustafi just stood there and played everyone on side. Result, a simple tap-in for Aguero. So as I mentioned earlier, Man City had an offensive line of 5 players. And Guardiola has mentioned it many times this season that he wants his team to make the pitch as wide as possible. With possession, Man City like to keep both their wingers very wide as they try to stretch the opposition defensive line. Wingers stay wide while De Bruyne and David Silva play in between the lines. The wide wingers pull the opposition fullbacks out and they try to create spaces in the defensive line for De Bruyne and David Silva. So as we can see here, both De Bruyne and David Silva are moving in the half spaces. Bernardo Silva receives the ball, he pulls Monreal out of his position and creates the space for De Bruyne's run. Again, Bernardo Silva receives the ball, pulls the fullback out to create space for De Bruyne's run in the half space. Guendouzi was slow to track De Bruyne's run. De Bruyne receives the ball and then quickly plays a cross inside the box for Aguero's run. Again, Monreal is totally confused as he has no idea who to follow. 2 players on both sides, and Guendouzi is again late to track De Bruyne's run. Playing against Man City is a nightmare for any fullback in the world. Since Man City play with an attacking line of 5 players, fullbacks are often the ones who get isolated from their defense. Since De Bruyne and David Silva play very high, so fullbacks are often left in 1v2 positions as they have runners on both sides. Now if the fullback decides to move in to cover the midfielder, then they'll leave big gaps open on the wide areas for City's wingers. And if the fullbacks move out to cover the winger, then they'll leave the half spaces open for the midfield runners. And this is why the fullbacks are always confused when playing against Man City. De Bruyne is playing very high, right at the shoulder of the fullback. So the fullback this time moved in to cover De Bruyne, and that has left Bernardo Silva alone in so much space. Just look at the space for Bernardo Silva, as Monreal was forced in by De Bruyne. Here again, Monreal is again forced in by De Bruyne, and now Bernardo is again free on the wing. And this is how Man City scored the second goal as well. David Silva is doing the same thing on the other end. He forced Lichtsteiner in, and now Sterling is free on the left wing. Fernandinho's quick shift of play, and now look at the space that Sterling has, as the right back was forced narrow by David Silva. The best way to deal with this situation is to reduce the gap in between the midfield and defensive line. When you reduce the gap in between the defensive and midfield line, you can cover the half spaces through your midfielders whenever your fullback moves out to cover the winger. Arsenal on the other hand invited Man City to press them and create overloads on one side of the pitch. Arsenal tried to play short passes and looked to create overloads on one side of the pitch. City followed them and tried to press them, which opened up the spaces on the other end. And then Arsenal tried to exploit those spaces with a quick long pass to the other end. Arsenal is working in small triangles and drawing City players on one side of the pitch. 3 Arsenal players attracted 5 City players in the corner, and now Lacazette quickly signals Guendouzi to shift the play to the other end. Guendouzi's quick shift of play in the open space, and now Arsenal have the chance to quickly move forward. Again, same triangle, and this time Lacazette quickly shift the play to the other end in the open space. Defending set pieces has been a big issue for Man City this season. 50% of the goals that City have conceded this season have come from set pieces. That's a total of 10 goals out of the total 20 that City have conceded this season. And Arsenal scored their only goal of the game from a set piece as well, when Sterling failed to mark Koscielny. Sterling is marking Koscielny, but he totally loses track of Koscielny's run when the cross is played, and Koscielny scores the goal. Sterling couldn't mark Koscielny, and Koscielny easily scored the goal. But Arsenal couldn't test Man City's defense too much from an open play. While Arsenal's defense, on the other hand, was once again totally scattered. Arsenal's defense in this game was playing very deep. They mostly tried to cover the 6-yard space, and that left so much space in front of their goal box for City players. Bernardo Silva receives the ball close to the byline, and the entire Arsenal's defense fall back to cover the 6-yard space, including their midfielders. Everyone fell back to cover the 6-yard space, and now Otamendi has a clear shot at the goal, as there is no Arsenal player to cover the space in front of the defense. Same thing here as well. Silva makes a run towards the byline, and Arsenal's defense starts to fall back. De Bruyne sees the space opening up in front of the box, and he holds his run. Again, Arsenal's defense is too deep, and this time De Bruyne has found so much space to the 18 yards area and has a free shot at the goal. Fernandinho's positional flexibility is a big weapon for Manchester City. He provides them with an extra man in the midfield with possession and drops back in the defense to provide defensive cover. Arsenal had no answer to Manchester City's quick interchange of positions. Thank you so much guys for watching the video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.